there's this new trend that I have noticed, that a lot of people have noticed, and it's called making the audience the villain. Now, I don't know how much of this is actually true, but I'm going to be using this as an example. If it is true, it is only one of the many occurrences that we've seen over the past few years of various directors doing this. Whenever their films don't do well, or they're trying to strong-arm people into going and seeing their film, they always go on the offense and actively attack the potential audience members, trying to gaslight or guilt them into seeing their film, which never works. So the example I'm going to be using is a movie called Origin by Ava DuVernay. Now, I've never heard of this woman who is the director for this movie, and I've never heard of the movie. And there's an article that claims that Ava DuVernay blames the audiences, hinting at them being prejudiced and apparently people who hate women simply because they were more excited to see Oppenheimer than her Isabel Wilkerson biopic Origin. Never mind what women like me have to say, never mind what females or minorities have to say about this, if they prefer to see Oppenheimer over Origin simply because it looked more interesting. But let's pick apart why, if this is true, this is an issue. Now, I didn't see exactly where she said this. I've seen many Variety articles covering this, but the first thing I noticed, which was a mistake, is watching the trailer or the teaser trailer. First of all, no one even knew about this film. The only time I found out about it is because people were talking about it. But then you watch the trailer and you have no idea what's going on. Now, there is a way to do this. You don't want to give away everything in your trailer because then what's the point of watching the movie? Scenes that are supposed to hit or be poignant are ruined because you've already spoiled them in the trailer. As a matter of fact, there's so many trailers nowadays that just give away the entire plot of the trailer, so when you watch the movie, you know what's coming next. But this trailer did nothing to evoke any curiosity or meaningfulness in its presentation. It was edited poorly. It just looked lame. It looked like ass. And I was there thinking to myself, okay, there's a thing called Origin, and it's about a woman, I guess, in Germany, and what is this exactly about? They're not doing a really good job with making me want to see this. With Oppenheimer, the trailer was intriguing, and it had this deathly, ominous tone to it, which is very fitting for the movie. It's also called Oppenheimer, which is a popular name that people would have learned in history. So people know what to expect. It's a movie about Oppenheimer and the bomb. With Origin, I mean, that could mean anything. The title is so vague. The trailer is vague on top of that. The marketing is almost non-existent for this movie. So I don't see, if this person actually said these things, blaming audiences for being racist and sexist, how that could be possibly true when everything was working against the film from the start. On top of that, if the film had a limited release, that is something that's going to hurt it even more if the film is already vague or for a very niche audience. But here's another issue, and this is where my whole topic comes into play. So this paragraph right here from Variety, of the article that is called Origin Review, Ava DuVernay's monumental look at cast frames America's most difficult conversation. The word racism shows up 6 times in this article. And when I read this paragraph and the entire tone of the article, I can understand if anyone was trying to look into whether or not this movie would be for them, while on both sides, whether you are of the lighter shade or darker shade, why this probably, especially nowadays, would not be something that would pique your interest. The paragraph reads, Sabine can beg to differ, but what makes DuVernay's movie so essential is the way it approaches America's most difficult issue. Origin draws comparisons, introduces examples, and enables discussion, and it de-emphasizes the dreaded R word, racism, which has a way of triggering white fragility and stopping meaningful talk dead in its tracks.
Right.
One needn't even agree with Wilkerson, who built her argument on several scholars before her, such as the undercover anthropologist whose Deep South study, chronicled an undercover study, is recreated here, that caste is a more appropriate means of understanding divisions based on arbitrary or invented differences. On to the paragraph after the one following. In Origin, young audiences observe a fiercely intelligent black woman repeatedly challenging the status quo. They also see her dealing with the personal hurdles that life throws in her way. Isabella loses her supportive white husband, Brett, closely followed by her mother. She struggles to get a disrespectful plumber to fix a leak in her basement and finds it hard to motivate herself at times. While this might be relatable to many people, to most it isn't. And I already knew, looking at the trailer, she's married to a white guy, I already knew that he was going to be a bad person, or he was going to leave her, or he was going to try and hold her back. or die early on, I just instantly knew. Because in modern media, for some reason, that seems to be the narrative. And I hate that this is going to trigger some people, but it needs to be said, because I hate how underhanded studios have been with this, to the point where a lot of minorities don't even realize what is happening. Maybe it's because I wasn't born here, so I can more so see this from the outside in, but it seems as though they're boiling a frog very slowly, and the frog doesn't realize it's being boiled. And while they're trying to say, see, look at what these people are doing over here that don't look like you, they're the reason for all your problems. In the same breath, in the same hand, these people who are pointing fingers and telling you that the real enemies over there are in fact the enemy, and are basically telling you that you're weak and you can never achieve what you want or get to a certain status, even though many people who look like you have already done that. Don't mind them, they're different. They sold their souls. You can never get there. And it's all because of these people over here. You will always be weak. You will always be oppressed. People will always hate you because of how you look. And that is what they continuously drill into people over and over again, while also telling the people of the lighter complexion, you are evil. It doesn't matter if you were born poorer than many people, darker shades. You will always be evil. You will always be racist. And so coming into that, people are going to see this, having seen it multiple times, over and over again, constantly. They're going to get tired of it. This article itself even says the dreaded R word. That's because the word has stopped having meaning. There is actual real racism out there, but the word has stopped having meaning because people have enveloped it. They've made it encompass everything from you don't agree with me to me not wanting accountability and me not liking what you do or how you think. It just has lost its real meaning. So movies like this, even if it had a more open reception, I guess, in terms of theaters it was released in, I think what is happening is there is a powerful influence on societal perceptions, and it comes from the media. When the media is constantly putting out something that is dividing people, after a while it comes to a head, and you'll see it from both sides. There are minorities who are experiencing fatigue from constant victimization. I've seen it time and time again, where people will comment on videos, Black people, Hispanic people, Indian people, and they will be like, I am tired. I am tired of us being consistently portrayed as victims and oppressed. And this kind of portrayal, that is actually a racist move, because you're always shedding them in that light. It's like they can't be anything more than just being oppressed or victimized. So it leads to a sense of fatigue and frustration among those communities. So while it's essential to acknowledge there were historical injustices and ongoing disparities, of course, things like that still exist, portraying minority characters solely as victims only serves to perpetuate stereotypes and limits their representation to a narrow range of roles, which is you're Black, you're oppressed, and everyone hates you. And that's it. And people, let's just say these people that you're trying to cater to or pander to with this movie, that's who you're trying to relate to them. Let's say they actually are living in an area where they're going through that, and they go to a film. Why on earth do they want to live through that and then constantly see it littered and inundated throughout every piece of media that there is? I have heard it. People are sick of it. Also, the stereotyping and uninspired representation. When minorities are predominantly portrayed in stereotypical roles, that only results in this uninspired and one-dimensional representation, which I just said, which is people are racist against you and they hate you because you're Black. This, in fact, limits the diversity that these studios claim to be pushing for. It limits the diversity of the experiences and narratives that can be explored in the film, and it reduces the potential for a more complex and relatable character. Not every single Black person has gone through that, especially when you consider the modern world. Despite what the media will have you think, it's much better than what people a long time ago have gone through, where they literally cannot sit in the same room with someone who's a lighter skin color than them, cannot drink from the same fountain, cannot use the same bathroom, cannot be in the same building, cannot even look. Even if it means nothing, you cannot even look in the direction of a woman who is a lighter shade of color, even if she just happens to be walking by and she's like, you're like, oh, there's somebody moving, my eyes are drawn to the movement, oh, it's a woman, oh, okay. You were immediately accused of essaying that woman, and it's like, dude, we have come so far. Now you have those same types of women who are falling over themselves to try and be with people that look like that because they fall in love with them, and they are free to do so, and vice versa. That is actually hurting the communities, the minority communities. It's not helping them. Constantly telling people that they're victims, or these audiences that they're victims, come see my movie so you can see how much of a victim you are and how horrible your life is because of the color of your skin, so that you can go back out there and live that if that is your reality. Why would they want to continue seeing that? It's like rubbing salt in the wound if that in fact is the reality that they're living.
You're the victim.
Then there's the other part of it, which is the disenfranchisement of whites. Vilifying white characters or portraying them exclusively as villains based on their ethnicity is problematic, and that is something that has been happening. Like, I can almost, it's stupid, but I have been right so far. I have been 100% right. I play this little game, and every time I watch a show or a movie and there's a white person in it and a black person, I already know who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. Unless the cast is fully white or fully black. Then there will be bad guys or whatever. Or the black guy who is a villain is very, I guess, sympathetic. They're sympathetic towards him. There's a reason, and it's somebody else's fault why he's like that. But I already know, like, oh yeah, if there's white people in it, they're gonna be evil. Even the ones you think are nice, nope, they're gonna be evil, especially if it's a white dude. If it's a white woman, they kind of like, okay, she's a female, so we can't really make her evil altogether. But if she's the only white person in the whole movie, like with Blue Beetle, she's automatically evil because she's white. And it's like, dude, why are we doing that? You have so many, I've heard from so many black people who are like, I would like to just play a good villain. Like, some of the best characters that we've gotten in the past were villains.
I just want you to know how sorry we are that things got so fucked up with us and Mr. Wallace. When we got into this thing with the best intentions, really. I never...
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
You can appreciate the actor's role as such. And Guardians of the Galaxy, I call him Mask Guy, Skin Mask Guy. He was amazing. I didn't even know who this actor was before Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but I remembered him. I'm like, whatever he stars in, I would like to see it because he gave such an impressive performance. They didn't overly sympathize him. He was just insane and he was scary and I loved it. I hated him and I loved it that he evoked that kind of emotion within me. And I appreciate that. I was actually shocked. But of course, James Gunn did that, so it makes sense. But in other movies and modern media, you don't really see that. And it's so predictable that you can tell who is going to be evil based on him being white and a male, or a white hetero male specifically. So that is problematic, especially when you consider that a large portion of the people who buy tickets and go to movies are white people, and specifically white men. It can lead to the disenfranchisement of white viewers who may feel unfairly blamed or demonized for historical wrongs that they didn't even have a part in. This type of portrayal often contributes to the sense of division and defensiveness, and people often go away feeling resentment, and it can breed prejudice. It's creating the very thing that these studios claim exists in droves, which it does not. The goal should be to promote more nuanced and diverse representations of all racial and ethnic groups. This means creating characters that reflect the complexities of real people with their strengths, their weaknesses, and their individual stories rather than reducing them to stereotypes and archetypes. Black individuals are more than just being oppressed and being weak and being tortured. It's almost like the people making these films get off on that for some reason, and it's hard for them to showcase a black character as just a black character, which is why I love Miles Morales. Like, it shouldn't even be that I should pick and choose certain movies as examples, because this was the thing like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, this was the norm. Like, you had black characters and you don't really consider, oh, that's a black character. No, it's just a character that just happens to be black. And people love that character. So I don't know why these studios are coming forward and acting as though yesterday was like the 1920s and you woke up today and now we're fighting what happened to yesterday. No, we already got to that point, and now it seems as though they're overcorrecting, which is actually driving people away. And you'll find that audiences now are running away at the speed of sound because you're chasing them away with this. You're chasing away people who are white because you're basically telling them that they ain't shit. You're chasing away the black audience because you're basically telling them they ain't shit. You're telling them exactly, these two groups, exactly the same thing in two different ways. Aw, what was you? I feel bad for you because you ain't shit because these people over here, and oh, look at you, your color. You ain't shit because look at what you did. So when you're telling off the audience, how do you figure that is going to attract them into watching your movie or being engaged in what you're making? There's a way to have these discussions, but when it is pummeled to death to the point where people are now trying to escape it and you can't read the room, you can't really blame these potential audiences for not wanting to see your movie or preferring to see something that they can escape in or learn something about that has nothing to do with their current day woes. It's so important to show characters also from a minority group as empowered and capable of agency. So portraying them as only victims undermines the whole importance of resilience and empowerment and the ability to effect positive change within their communities celebrities and a society as a whole, because people are just gonna see, oh, they're oppressed. That's the only thing they're gonna walk away. Look at those people, what they're doing to them. That's crazy. Like, it's disgusting. And filmmakers have walked away from balanced storytelling. Now it's all about, let's see how many black people or Hispanic people we can cater to, and just cringily put in things or jokes that is a nudge elbow nub to people who happen to look like that, because all of you are a monolith and you all think the same apparently and come from exactly the same situation. You're probably poor, and if you're married to someone white, they hate you, and everyone around hates you and treats you like shit, and you will never be anything unless you work 3 times as hard. Don't even look at the celebrities like Oprah who actually went through things and came above it. Don't look at Will Smith.
I am overwhelmed.
Are you now?
Don't look at Beyonce. Don't look at the hordes of black actors. Don't consider the people in Asian countries who were born into that country when they have a parent who is Asian and who is black, and they legitimately have to deal with actual racism and prejudice there. Don't look at them. Your silver spoon in your mouth, you were still oppressed, and you will always be oppressed, even when you're not. But that's who you are, just because of the color of your skin. They don't consider the wide variety of people who happen to be a darker shade that span across the entire earth, not just the United States. The same thing with people of the lighter shade. In victimizing the audience constantly in all of the media, you're basically making a villain origin story for them. And so people go out there feeling bitter about this. Or if young people watch it, they feel bitter about this. Now, I will agree that it's not the movie's job to educate the young people, it's the parents' job. But when they're talking about inspiring young people, because often when they do market these types of movies, they say, oh, well, young people have to see people that look like us in order to relate to them, which is not true. But now you're responsible for planting in that child's mind that they cannot be what they strive to be simply because of the color of their skin. You have now devalued them to a point where the only thing that they can identify with and that holds any value to their individuality is strictly the shade of their skin, which is not how the real world works. It may work in some fashion, and I'm not saying or denying that there is an active prejudice still going on, but considering that we had a president of the United States and celebrities who are richer than anybody, like, I mean, these people can freaking buy islands. We're not there anymore. The most you're going to deal with are people being mean to you and saying some ignorant shit. But those people, most of the time, cannot stop you from going on YouTube, from streaming, from opening up a business, for garnering lots of views. I mean, look at iShowSpeed. I mean, there's so many examples. It's actually kind of silly to point all the examples because there's so many of them. And I think that's what's happening. People are getting tired of it. People are getting tired of seeing that. So it's not that, oh, people choose Oppenheimer over that because they're racist. It's because Oppenheimer actually has something to contribute. We're gaining knowledge. You telling us the world's racist, there's a caste system, and these people over here are falling away, and white people are evil. We're hearing that every single day in, day out. Why would we be inspired to watch a movie just telling us the same thing every media platform has been telling us for the good better part of like 8 years now? And I think that people just, I don't know if they just don't know this or if they're just ignoring it, but I have to believe on some level that these directors live in this kind of bubble of elitism that they just don't even understand. They just think that the world still exists this way, and they want so badly to be the saviors. They want so badly to sit on their thrones of gold and tell everyone how oppressed they are while pulling the ladder up from over them, like from under them. It just find it very rich. So that is my thoughts on that. I don't think it helps. What really helps is building characters, original characters, if you really want to do this, and making it about the character and the story first rather than just based on the way someone looks. Isn't that what Martin Luther King said? The quote from Martin Luther King Jr. says, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. No one should ever look at someone who is white and automatically think you're evil by default. No one should ever look at somebody who is black and think the same, or think you're oppressed by default, or you're stupid by default." Like, that is racism. While the people claiming otherwise are actually acting like that. That's what I find rich. So that's why I think that's happening, along with all the other things I said in the beginning. What do you guys think about it? No matter what background you come from, you can feel free to share your background or where you come from and how you feel about this, because it's something that everybody notices and some people will get mad over it, but enough people are talking about it from every side of the aisle. Asian, Latino, black, black, white, everybody is tired of seeing it. Everybody. Because they understand what it is. It's a freaking cop-out, and it's divisive as fuck. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.
I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.